Well, hello out there, folks. How are you doing? Thank you again so much for joining me. We are going to be taking a look at Mike Huckabee, as promised. We did Dr. Ben Carson a couple weeks ago. We did Carly Fiorina last week. And this week we're going to take a look at Mike Huckabee. We're going to listen to some highlights from his announcement speech. And I'll bring you some audio I found on his positions and one pet peeve I have with Mike Huckabee. We're going to take a look at that. And if you listen to the quick reports, and you should, then you heard Ted Cruz was ambushed by Kevin Steele, some two-bit reporter in Texas somewhere. I played a little bit of that for you, but I want to play some more of it and get into that a little bit deeper. We'll talk about that. It also has to do with how the media treats conservative candidates. And President Obama went to the Coast Guard Academy up in Connecticut and spoke to a bunch of graduating cadets and laid it all on the line when it comes to global warming. This is the biggest national security threat he says America faces. And I did a quick report on this as well, but we're going to look at this a little bit deeper. Hillary supporters. Can you find a Hillary supporter that can name one achievement? We're going for one, not two, one. And we'll take a look at what these people had to say. And you will not believe what's going to happen over in Ferguson as a result of the Michael Brown incident. We will take a look at that. All of that right here, right now on this, The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you have any questions for me, any comments, any concerns, if you feel the need to rant or vent, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, as I've explained several times now, a few weeks ago we had some candidates jump in the race kind of all at the same time. I've been looking at them one at a time. And this week we're going to take a close look at Mike Huckabee. So here is the highlights of the announcement speech that Mike Huckabee gave in his home state of Arkansas, in his hometown of Hope.
Thank you very much. Folks, it is a long way from a little brick rent house on 2nd Street in Hope, Arkansas, to the White House. It was here in Hope that I learned how to handle a firearm and a fishing pole, and I spent a lot of hours with both. And it was here that I was baptized in the Garrett Memorial Baptist Church after accepting Jesus in a vacation Bible school when I was just 10 years old. It was here that I met the girl who would become my wife of 41 years and give me 3 children and share what will soon be 5 grandchildren. It was also here that I got a job at KXAR Radio at age 14. And that job would not only pay my way through school, but it would give me the opportunity to be mentored by Haskell Jones, the station manager, and one of the few Republicans in the entire county. And it was from here that I went on to college at Ouachita Baptist University. So it seems perfectly fitting that it would be here that I announce that I am a candidate for President of the United States of America. You know, it was 8 years ago that a young, untested, inexperienced, and virtually unknown freshman senator made great speeches about hope and change. But 8 years later, our debt's more than doubled. America's leadership in the world has completely evaporated, and the country is more polarized than ever in my lifetime. 93 million Americans don't have jobs, and many of them who do have seen their full-time job with benefits they once had become 2 part-time jobs with no benefits at all. We were promised hope, but it was just talk. And now we need the kind of change that really could get America from hope to higher ground. When I am president, our veterans are not going to be left on the streets and in waiting rooms to rot, but they're going to be treated with the dignity that they have earned and deserve. Washington is more dysfunctional than ever, and it's become so beholden to the donor class who fills the campaign coffers that it ignores the fact that 1 in 4 American families are paying more than half of all of their income just for housing. Home ownership at the lowest level in decades. And a lot of young people with heavy student debt aren't likely to afford their first home for a long while. Our federal policies for affordable housing aren't designed to protect families, but rather to protect bureaucrats. As president, I'd launch a curative approach to health care and save money and lives, not just save a bunch of government programs. We face real threats from radical jihadism in the form of savage groups like ISIS and state terrorists like Iran. But we put more pressure on our ally Israel to cease building bedrooms for their families in Judea and Samaria than we do on Iran for building a bomb. Dealing with radicals who chant death to America and who fund bombs and rockets to murder civilians in Israel is nonsense. So when I hear our current president say he wants Christians to get off their high horse so we can make nice with radical jihadists, I wonder if he could watch a Western from the 50s and be able to figure out who the good guys and the bad guys really are. As president, I promise you that we will no longer merely try to contain jihadism. We will conquer it. We've lost our way morally. We've witnessed the slaughter of over 55 million babies in the name of choice. And we are now threatening the foundation of religious liberty by criminalizing Christianity and demanding that we abandon biblical principles of natural marriage. My friend, the Supreme Court is not the supreme being, and they cannot overturn the laws of nature or of nature's God. Government in Washington is dysfunctional because it's become the Roach Motel. People go in, but they never come out. As president, I'll fight for term limits on all three branches of government. That would help return us to the founder's dream that serving the public should be a temporary duty, not a lucrative career with generous pensions and paychecks that aren't available to the very people who pay for them. Our Constitution was explicitly clear about keeping the federal government small, so it'd be able to focus on some simple things, like providing a military and securing our borders. There's some things being done at the federal level that should have been left in the hands of the states, or even better, the families. There is no constitutional authority to dictate education from the federal government. Education policy ought to be set by states, local school boards, and best of all, by the moms and dads of the children. We've supersized the federal bureaucracy, but we've downsized the military and left our borders open and uncontrolled. Yes, we need to address the immigration issues, but not with amnesty. But we need to start by taking control of our own borders. As president, I'll work to pass the fair tax, which would no longer penalize people's work. And by the way, it would be the end of big government bailouts, and most importantly, we would finally rid ourselves of the biggest bully in America, the IRS. I will be funded and fueled not by the billionaires, but by working people across America who will find out that $15 and $25 a month contributions can take us from hope to higher ground. I don't come from a family dynasty, but a working family. I grew up blue collar, not blue blood. So I ask you to join with me today, not just so I can be president, but so we can preserve this great republic, and someday so that your children and grandchildren can still go from hope to higher ground. And with your help and God's, we will make that journey from hope to higher ground. God bless you. Thank you very much.
So that was all the highlights. There was probably a few more in there, but I didn't want to play the entire thing. Mike Huckabee, you can find a lot of his positions online. He's had his own show on Fox News for years. You can literally type in, if you Google Mike Huckabee and whatever issue you want, Mike Huckabee gun control, Mike Huckabee abortion. I mean, you can look up anything you want and pretty much find it. But anyway, you heard him trying to do a little play on words there with hope, from hope to higher ground, because he's from Hope, Arkansas. That was pretty much kind of a theme throughout his speech. Now, I did dig up a couple of positions. These are biggies. They're important to people on both sides. This is what Governor Huckabee has to say about the pro-life issue.
This is not about being anti-abortion. Whenever I'm called that, I say, no, you don't understand. I'm not anti-abortion. I'm pro-life, and there's a fundamental difference. I'm not against something. I'm for something. I'm for the idea that your life, my life, and every other life has equal value, that every life should be treated with dignity and respect and with honor. And it goes not just to the heart of the Judeo-Christian concern, but it goes to the heart of our own documents that gave us birth in this country. When our founding fathers, in creating our independence, said that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator. And notice, without apology, the founding fathers acknowledged that we have been endowed by these rights by our Creator. They are not government's gifts to us. They are God's gifts to us. And those gifts were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At the heart of that is the idea that we're all equal. And pro-life means that we recognize that there is nothing that gives one person a higher level of worth than another.
Now, you heard Governor Huckabee say in his announcement speech that he is born-again Christian. And as such, of course, he believes in the sanctity of life and is pro-life 100%. And I think some of that was borne out there in that soundbite. Now, also, I wanted to take a look at what Mike Huckabee thinks when it comes to the Second Amendment. So I found this little soundbite, and here is Mike Huckabee on gun rights.
The Second Amendment is not about hunting. Look, I'm a hunter, okay? And I mean a real one. I mean, I actually go out and harvest things. That's what hunting is about. I have, the mounts on my wall. I would have more if my wife would let me, but I have as many as she'll allow me to have. The only reason I don't have more is she made room for a few of hers. And that's the truth. But that's not what the Second Amendment is. It's not about our hunting. It's about our freedom. It's about our capacity to defend ourselves and our families and our properties and our own nation.
So again, Governor Huckabee is spot on. Now, I would even take that a step further. Not only is it your right to protect yourself and your family, but it's our right as Americans to protect ourselves from our own government. That's mainly, I think, what the founders had in mind when they said for the necessity of a free state. We are supposed to have the right to resist tyranny in this country. And that is what the Second Amendment is all about. It's all about having the right to resist tyranny, in my opinion. Now, I told you I had a kind of pet peeve issue with Governor Huckabee, and the problem I had with him is Common Core. Now, Mike Huckabee has since come out against Common Core, but he hasn't always been against it. He has changed his view on this, and this is going to give Democrats something to call him a flip-flopper on. But anyway, I thought I would at least clear the air and let him explain for himself where he came from and why he went where he went on this issue. So here in his own words is Mike Huckabee when he supported Common Core.
Common Core is not a pathway, it's a goal. And Arnie Duncan, who's the education secretary under President Obama, he has his own agenda, but Common Core is a state initiative. It is not a federal initiative. The feds don't control it, the states do. And the way I've simply tried to explain it to people, Common Core is like setting up the rules of football. It's 100 yards from one end to the other. The way you play the game inside those boundaries is totally up to you. You can pass, you can run, you can do whatever, but the rules are, here they are, and you have a goal. How you get to the goal is totally up to you. So Common Core doesn't tell you how to score, it just tells you this is what it should look like at the end of the game.
So there you heard him use the football analogy. As far as he's concerned, Common Core is a state's issue or a state's initiative, and it was just supposed to be laying the groundwork or the ground rules for education to be able to operate inside of. Now, since then, things have changed when it comes to Common Core. It's gotten a lot bigger than that. It's gotten turned into a lot more than that. The federal government has kind of taken this over. And, let's just listen to Mike Huckabee explain. This is F. Chuck Todd interviewing Mike Huckabee and trying to figure out why he changed his mind on it.
I guess I'm confused here a little bit on Common Core. You have said, you wrote a letter to the state of Oklahoma in 2013, essentially in favor of Common Core standards. You said that you thought it was near and dear to your heart. Now you say you're not a Common Core supporter. What does that mean?
No, I'm absolutely against what Common Core has come to stand for, but it's totally different than what it was intended to be. A number of governors, many of them, most of them, in fact, Republicans, put forth to keep state standards, not letting the federal government get in control. And the whole idea was let the states decide the standards, but have high standards. Lift education up. I don't know of anybody in America who thinks we'd be better off dumbing down the schools. So that was the genesis of it. Common Core originally only dealt with two things, language arts and math. That was it. And nothing in curriculum.
So you heard Governor Huckabee talk about how Common Core is not what it was when it first started. When the program was first starting to come together, it was a state's initiative. It was governors who came together to try to lift up education, try to raise the standards, and try to make things better. And then, of course, the federal government has since gotten involved, and as soon as Barack Obama takes something over, that's when we pretty much know that it's either dead or needs to die. So anyway, this is kind of a problem for me. I don't know if he's trying to backpedal his way out of this, or if he's I don't think he's making it up as he goes along. I think Mike Huckabee is a fairly decent human being. But as a politician, there's just other problems I've had with Governor Huckabee. And I'm going to just be honest, he's not my guy. Not in the primary. If he's our nominee, of course I'll vote for him in the general presidential election. But he's not my guy in the primary. And we'll be back, folks. Stay right there.
Always say what needs to be said.
You are listening to The Ray Warner Show.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
John and I just couldn't afford health insurance anymore. We exercise, we eat right, and we live a healthy lifestyle. Yet we were paying over $800 per month for a family of 4. Then a friend told us about MediShare. MediShare isn't insurance. It's a nationwide network of Christians who save money by sharing in each other's medical bills. Our share is almost 40% less than our old insurance premiums. We still see the same doctors and use the same hospitals if something does happen. The best part is that participating in MediShare exempts us from the tax penalties in the new health reform laws. So as long as we're in the program, the government's mandates to buy expensive insurance won't apply. You should call them today. I'm sure glad we did.
If you're a Christian under 65 and a non-smoker, then MediShare could be the right choice for you. Call 1-866-330-8585 or visit meta-share.org. You do have a choice.
21 Signs of Doomsday. God said, man said.com. Noah's Ark, fact or fiction. Geologists say yes to crucifixion. Science says eat butter. God said, man said.com. Scientists study speaking in tongues. Hours of text and audio. God said, man said.com. Doctors flummoxed by what they found in female brains. St. Peter's fish, hell worms, extraterrestrials amongst us. God said, man said.com.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show, hosted by me, Ray Warner. If you want to email the show, if you have any comments, any questions, any concerns, or any feedback for me, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, I wanted to talk more in depth about this interview that Ted Cruz did with Kevin Steele. Now, Kevin Steele, like I said, he's a local anchor somewhere near Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont is where Ted Cruz stopped along the campaign trail. And he was ambushed by this Kevin Steele. Now, what you're going to hear, these are the questions that Kevin Steele asked Senator Ted Cruz. He said, tell us about Hillary's admission that she had not one but 2 email accounts as Secretary of State. This is what he asked Senator Ted Cruz. Tell us about Hillary's admission. Then he said, have you disclosed all that you need to disclose concerning your emails? So he's using this Hillary incident, and based on what we've seen Hillary Clinton done, he's just going to kind of look at Ted Cruz and say, so tell us, are you a criminal as well? And of course, Ted Cruz told him that all of his things are in order. He also mentioned that other lawmakers are in trouble for transparency, and he asked him, have you released your records? So I don't know what he's fishing for or digging for here, but is this how you would conduct an interview with a candidate for president of the United States? This line of questioning? Kevin Steele went on. He quoted something from MSNBC, something that Ted Cruz said about gay unions, homosexual unions. And then he asked, how do you defend your remarks linking same-sex marriage to religious liberty? That was what he asked him. How do you defend your remarks? I don't know why Ted Cruz has to defend anything. I mean, if he's out there telling the truth, but it's just the way that they couch these questions, these liberals. Critics believe your rhetoric is alarmist, he said. Some states have gay marriage laws. I mean, this guy just kept pounding and pounding and pounding away at the homosexual agenda. The next question he asked, does taking on these issues hurt your chances of gaining independence? Does it hurt your chance of having the center vote for you? I mean, he just kept going on and on and on about it. Now, Ted Cruz, every time this guy asked one of these dumb questions, he's trying to get to the issues. He's trying to talk about, Ted Cruz did mention in his responses the fact that judges are creating law from the bench. He tried to talk about Obamacare and the tanking economy. He talked about the devastating foreign policy that Obama has implemented. And he pretty much called this guy out. And after all that, the guy just kind of starts asking him point blank, do you have a personal animosity against gay Americans? Do you have a personal animosity against gay Americans? I mean, it's just the stupidest thing. You know, this reporter, he kind of reminds me of, if you can imagine someone playing a piano and making music, making very beautiful music on a piano, and then some little kid comes up and just starts pounding one key over and over, bong, 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 bong. I mean, that's pretty much what this guy is doing, just pounding one issue over and over and over again. Here he is. He has a chance to speak with Senator Ted Cruz, the first candidate who jumped in the race for 2016, and this is his line of questioning. And it is just the stupidest line of questioning. So finally, Ted Cruz, he just ignored this guy and moved on to somebody else. And the last question he took was a question about the Iowa straw poll. But what I want you to hear is what Ted Cruz, he finally, after hearing enough, I think this was like the second or third question about gay rights that this guy asked, and Ted Cruz had pretty much had enough and just started turning it around on this guy. So I played a little bit of this in the quick report, but here's a lot more of it. Listen to this.
You know, I'm curious, when you asked that question, have you asked Democrats, does Hillary Clinton standing against religious liberty, does Hillary Clinton standing with the extreme far left and embracing mandatory gay marriage in all 50 states, does Hillary Clinton standing with the extreme far left on abortion and supporting abortion on demand at any point, does that endanger her chance with the center? You know, somehow the questions with all...
Endanger your chance at having the center vote for you? Or?
But let me ask a question. Is there something about the left, and I'm going to put the media in this category, that's obsessed with sex? Why is it that the only question you want to ask concerns homosexuals? Okay, you can ask those questions over and over and over again. I recognize that you're reading questions from MSNBC. But what I'm talking about are the challenges facing this country. And the challenges facing this country right now is millions of people across this country, people here in Beaumont, hardworking men and women who want to believe again in the miracle of America, are tired of seeing life made harder for hardworking men and women. They're tired of seeing wages stagnate. They've stagnated for 2 decades. Are tired of seeing abroad America abandoning our friends and allies, abandoning nations like the nation of Israel, abandoning those. Our friends and allies don't trust us, and our enemies don't fear us. We saw just this week ISIS taking Ramadi. Now, you're wincing. You don't want to talk about foreign policy. I recognize you want to ask another question about gay rights. Well, you know, ISIS is executing homosexuals. You want to talk about gay rights? This week was a very bad week for gay rights because the expansion of ISIS, the expansion of radical theocratic Islamic zealots that crucify Christians, that behead children, and that murder homosexuals, that ought to be concerning you far more than asking 6 questions all on the same topic.
Do you have a personal animosity against gay Americans?
Do you have a personal animosity against Christians, sir? Your line of questioning is highly curious. You seem fixated on a particular subject. Look, I'm a Christian. Scripture commands us to love everybody.
So there you hear Ted Cruz taking his reporter to school and pretty much doing his job for him, answering the questions that he should have asked. I just cannot believe you're supposed to be some kind of serious journalist, and this is the line of questioning you have for a presidential candidate. I don't understand it. And, well, I do understand it. I shouldn't say I don't, because I do. We always have to remember the left is not interested in understanding anything conservatives say or do or any positions they hold. They're just interested in how can I make them look bad? How can I make myself look cool to my liberal buddies? How can I get him in some kind of gotcha question? He's looking for the soundbite that he can play over and over and over again. And then finally, I watched the guy's report. This guy was like on some kind of Channel 12 news or something, and I found the report on the internet that he gave as a news anchor on his interview. And of course the headline on the bottom is Senator Cruz refuses to say that he has animosity to gays. That was his little headline on the bottom. So once again, just another bonehead liberal reporter trying to get a conservative in a gotcha question. And it made me think, you know, if I were to have the opportunity to interview Senator Ted Cruz or any candidate for president for 2016, my questions would probably sound something like, Senator, many of the problems we have in this country are due to, or at least amplified, by our failure to secure the border. What are you going to do to fix that? That might be a question I would ask. Or, what are you going to do to get this economy going? That's what I want to know. People, 93 million Americans are out of work. How are you going to fix that? That's what I want to know. How would you go about defeating ISIS? How about that question? What is your vision for rebuilding trust with Israel and our other allies and restabilizing the Middle East? How about a question like that? Mr. Cruz, you said that we've been suffering a moral decline in America. What steps would you take to reverse that trend? How about that question? Or under Obama, we've seen racial tensions soar. We have entire black communities rioting over a few cases of blacks dying while in police custody or being shot when fighting with the police. Of course, we did have the one case in South Carolina of a white cop shooting a black male in the back as he's running away. And these things have lent themselves to racial tension. How would you go about repairing this damage and healing this racial divide? How about that question? Or here's one. Senator, we've seen government officials refuse to cooperate with investigators. Lois Lerner pleading the fifth and just sitting there saying, I'm not going to answer your questions. Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, and the stonewalling he's done. People just refusing to comply with subpoenas and the president's lawlessness. How would you restore law and order in Washington? How about that question? How would you restore law and order and integrity to the federal government, Senator Cruz? These are the kinds of questions I would ask. I cannot see standing there for 10 minutes pounding and pounding and pounding away on homosexual rights. I just can't see doing that. That is such a waste of time to me. We're talking about a fraction of the people in this country, a very small fraction. Less than 1%. But that is how this guy, Kevin Steele, wasted his time in an interview with Senator Ted Cruz. Now, moving on to President Obama, who gave a speech over at the Coast Guard graduation ceremony, and this has nothing short of embarrassment. Just absolutely embarrassing. The Chinese have to be laughing. Vladimir Putin has to be laughing his Russian head off at this fool who's going to sit there and talk for a half hour about global warming. This guy has got his tinfoil hat cinched on so tight, I don't know how blood gets up to this guy's brain. I mean, it is just absolutely embarrassing. And it was just, I cannot imagine going through some kind of graduation ceremony and sitting there and you're getting ready to embark on a new career, and here comes the commander-in-chief going to stand there and talk to you about global warming and try to convince you that this is your mission. This is going to be the mission of your entire career moving forward, is combating global warming. Listen to some of this.
We are joined today by Commander Merle Smith, the first African-American graduate of this academy, class of 1966, a decorated Vietnam veteran. His legacy endures in all of you because the graduating class of 2015 is the most diverse in academy history.
Of course, he has to throw race in there. This is how he started off this speech. He has to have this little racial component because that's the kind of guy he is. You know, we can't have an event without bringing the first black somebody that did something and sit him down in the middle of it all, right?
And this brings me to the challenge I want to focus on today, one where our Coast Guardsmen are already on the front lines and that perhaps more than any other will shape your entire careers. And that's the urgent need to combat and adapt to climate change. The best scientists in the world know that climate change is happening. Our analysts in the intelligence community know climate change is happening. Our military leaders, generals and admirals, active duty and retired, know it's happening. Our Homeland Security professionals know it is happening, and our Coast Guard knows it's happening. The science is indisputable.
Don't you love this straw man argument? All of these brilliant people know that it's happening. Our smartest scientists know that it's happening. All the smartest people in the world know that it's happening. The CIA and the whoever and the military knows it's happening, and NASA knows it's happening. Who's he trying to convince here? They have been preaching to us their religion of environmentalism for how many years now? And they're still, I mean, it's like they're trying to convince themselves. Is this really the best he can do, is build this straw man argument and try to convince me that I'm in a minority? Try to convince me that I'm the only one who isn't on board with this whole stupid idea of global warming? Or is he trying to convince himself? He can't possibly believe this. If he wanted to warm the planet, what would he do? Somebody needs to ask him that question. What would he do if he was tasked with warming the planet? But he thinks he can turn around and cool it? It is insulting. It's absolutely insulting to my intelligence for someone to stand there and talk to me for a half hour about an absolute fraud called global freaking warming. I am so sick to death of hearing that the sky is falling. Anyway, he went on.
The fossil fuels we burn release carbon dioxide, which traps heat. And the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are now higher than they have been in 800,000 years.
Now, how does he even say something like that? How does he say that with a straight face? Higher than they've been in 800,000 years? Who was around 800,000 years ago measuring the carbon in the atmosphere? Who was doing that? Whose notes are we looking at and comparing with the carbon levels we have today? I need to know this. And how is that even possible when the Earth is only 6,000 years old? That's another question I have for this goofball.
14 of the 15 hottest years on record have been in the past 15 years. Last year was the planet's warmest year ever recorded.
Oh, here we go. Last year was the warmest year ever recorded. Have we heard this before? They do this all the time. They come out and they say, oh, it was the hottest year on record. And then a couple years later, we're going to have to quietly change what we said. We discovered some new data, and actually the numbers aren't quite what we told you that they were. And the numbers are a bunch of crap anyway, because we all know that they have these stations. Half of them aren't working. Some of them, they've got the thermometers, like on the motor to the refrigerator in the break room, where it's going to register something higher than what the temperature really is. Or they have the thermometer behind glass in the sun. I mean, these people are just ridiculous. We have the emails. We have the emails that prove that they corroborate. These people discuss with each other how to hide evidence. They discuss with each other how to make things look worse than they really are. We have the emails, okay? This has been busted. It's been busted and debunked. And this fool spent a half hour talking to these cadets about this stupid global warming. But he went on.
Our scientists at NASA just reported that some of the sea ice around Antarctica is breaking up even faster than expected. The world's glaciers are melting, pouring new water into the ocean.
Yeah, the sea ice in Antarctica. Is this the sea ice that a bunch of scientists who went down there to try to show us that there is no ice anymore, and they all got stuck in the ice? Is this the ice he's talking about that doesn't exist? And then one of the icebreaker boats had to go and bail that boat out, and it got stuck in the ice. And so they had to send a third icebreaker, an even bigger one, to rescue everybody out of the freaking ice. Is this the ice he's talking about that doesn't exist? There's a word coming to mind. Stupid.
Cadets, the threat of a changing climate cuts to the very core of your service. You've been drawn to water. Like the poet who wrote, as America's maritime guardian, you've pledged to remain always ready. Semper paratus. Ready for all threats. And climate change is one of those most severe threats. And this is not just a problem for countries on the coasts or for certain regions of the world. Climate change will impact every country on the planet. No nation is immune. So I'm here today to say that climate change constitutes a serious threat to global security, an immediate risk to our national security. And make no mistake, it will impact how our military defends our country. And so we need to act, and we need to act now.
Okay, turn it off.
After all, isn't that the true hallmark of leadership?
I absolutely cannot take it. I love how it's all climate change now. Have you noticed? Climate change, climate change. You know what's funny? I believe in climate change. The climate changed 3 times today. Where I live, it started out, it was cold and cloudy, and then it rained for a while, then it was sunny for a while, and then it rained again. The climate's been changing all day. I love how they've moved over to this climate change, something that you can't disprove, because the climate does change. And then sometimes they just say climate without the word change. And of course I believe in a climate. Everybody has a climate. The climate exists everywhere, right? I just can't take it anymore. I cannot take the stupidity of this whole global warming thing. I can't take it. We'll be back. Stay right there.
As soon as it became clear that this year's migration to the border was different than in past years.
This year's migration? Like they're a flock of geese and they're going to go back when the season's over?
Saying what needs to be said on the Ray Warner Show.
Are you concerned about your privacy? Identity theft? Corporate eavesdropping? Who's listening in on your confidential calls? Silent Circle's innovative suite of encrypted communication services allows you the privacy you need and the ease of use you deserve. We've built a customized system focused on security, simplicity, and service, fashioned from the ground up by our team of world-renowned experts with no logging, no data farming, and no backdoors of any kind for anyone. When a Silent Circle subscriber makes a phone call, sends a text, or exchanges a file with another Silent Circle member, that transmission is encrypted, peer-to-peer, end-to-end, direct from your own mobile device or personal computer. With the addition of OutCircle access, you can even call individuals outside the circle knowing you're still encrypted to and from the silent network. Whether you're a small business concerned with corporate espionage, a governmental organization tasked to safeguard sensitive operations, or an individual protecting your family, you can trust Silent Circle's user-friendly apps and services to provide you with an affordable alternative to the risk you've had to accept until now. Silent Circle's groundbreaking global platform is the world's standard for secure mobile communications. Send a secure text across town or whisper in someone's ear 10,000 miles away. Silent Circle has revolutionized how the world communicates securely. Get in the circle.
You have reached the Bovine Chicken Chat Line, where you can chat with tons and tons of cows about chicken. All our cows are busy. While you're waiting, why not get to know some of these fuzzy fans of chicken? Heifer 9672 is a 1,200-pounder from Kentucky who likes long walks in the pasture, watching cars go by from the pasture, and eating the pasture. She's also an aspiring author, writing a book called The Burgers of Wrath. Bull 5441 is a bull from Chicago with a pierced nose and a nasty temper. But he loves people who eat chicken and the good folks at Chick-fil-A who make the chicken. Bull 5441's pet peeves are cow tipping and the color red, especially when it's meat. All our cows are still busy. Please try calling the Bovine Chicken Chat Line later. The cows thank you for calling and for not eating burgers. This call made possible by Chick-fil-A.
Yes, let us pray for the salvation of all of those who live in that totalitarian darkness. They are the focus of evil in the modern world. But if history teaches anything, it teaches that simple-minded appeasement or wishful thinking about our adversaries is folly. It means the betrayal of our past, the squandering of our freedom. So I urge you to speak out against those who would place the United States in a position of military and moral inferiority, to ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, and thereby remove yourself from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil. Any objective observer must hold a positive view of American history, a history that has been the story of hopes fulfilled and dreams made into reality. America has kept alight the torch of freedom, but not just for ourselves, but for millions of others around the world. We must never forget that no government schemes are going to perfect man. We know that living in this world means dealing with what philosophers would call the phenomenology of evil, or as theologians would put it, the doctrine of sin. There is sin and evil in the world, and we're enjoined by Scripture and the Lord Jesus to oppose it with all our might. We will never compromise our principles and standards. We will never give away our freedom. We will never abandon our belief in God.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Ray Warner Show. I am your host, Ray Warner. If you want to email me or the show, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, the email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Now, I came across this audio in my show prep. This, to me, is classic. I'm not exactly sure who this is, but this is PJTV. The person there doing the interviews, her name is Michelle Fields. I have no idea who she is or who this group is, but what they did is they scoured George Washington University, and they looked for some young Hillary Clinton supporters and had a chat with them. Listen to some of this.
I think it'd be really cool to have a woman president, but she'd have to overcome some issues before getting there.
Definitely, when you think about the fact that we already have had our first African-American president, I think this is really an era of progression in American politics, and we could set the stage for really set an example for the rest of the world. If we have our first African-American president and then immediately follow that with our first woman president, that would just be amazing.
I'm honestly a huge Hillary fan. I think that Hillary can do a lot for this country. I loved her tenure as Secretary of State. I'm actually doing my senior thesis on it at the moment, so I mean, if I could see her run for president, I'd definitely vote for her.
That would be really cool because she's a woman and it's woman empowerment.
She'd be the first candidate that I would vote for.
I think she should go for it. Yeah, I agree. Why not?
I think Bill's got a lot of followers and he owes her one, so why not?
I think she's the most obvious Democratic candidate.
I think it would be really interesting to have yet another legacy of like continuing the Clintons. Like we've had multiple Bushes, like having another Clinton, like having just that continued legacy seems kind of weird. But I mean, Hillary is an amazing woman. She's done so much. And the idea of having a woman as president is really exciting. So I think it would be cool.
I think that this country is ready for a female president. I'm not a feminist, but, you know, ready for a new, fresh face out in office.
What do you think is her greatest achievement as Secretary of State?
I'm not really sure. I'm not that into politics.
I don't know. It's a tough question. I don't know. I really don't know.
Definitely not the Benghazi ordeal.
Don't say
right?
Whoa. I have no clue.
There's just so many. Just the fact that she's been such a world leader and just recognized all over as doing so many great things. Like, I don't even know that I could pick a single accomplishment.
Her soft power approach, I think, was a very big and positive contrast to the previous 8 years under the Bush administration, and I think really, gained America's credibility abroad and was very positive for the U.S. in general.
As Secretary of State, she has just done a great job in not letting things deteriorate. Honestly, I'm not very up to date with politics, but I know she hasn't made a major mistake, and that would definitely be an accomplishment.
What do you think is her greatest achievement as Secretary of State?
Well, she didn't have that many before she gave up that role.
And the way she handled Benghazi was remarkably adept at international affairs, so I really respect her for that.
So you think probably Benghazi is one of her best accomplishments?
I mean, no accomplishment is without fail, but I think that it ranks pretty high up on the level of emergency that it presented and how well it was handled. So yeah, I would definitely say that Benghazi is her high point.
Is that good stuff or what? You hear these kids just reaching. Yeah, I love Hillary. I think it's great. We had the first black president, and I can't wait. Now we're going to have the first woman president. And can you name one of her big achievements? And then, of course, I like how they're trying to answer, some of them, and they're like grasping at straws. Well, her diplomacy, was different from the way Bush did it. And so I think we're better in the world because of some of her diplomacy. And what was some of those other answers? Oh, Benghazi, I like that. Did you like that guy? Oh, Benghazi was great. And no accomplishment is without failure. So yeah, oh gee, I don't know, I have no idea. Oh, I'm not really that up on politics. What is with these people? They have no idea. They're not up on politics, but they know they're going to vote for Hillary. Why is that? Is this what you're doing? Is this what you're doing, sending your kids to public schools and sending your kids off to these liberal institutions called colleges? Oh, my goodness. It's just too funny. Elizabeth Warren spoke from the Senate floor about the trade deal. I remember I said this trade deal is making for some strange bedfellows. This is really bizarre because Obama wants it. He's pushing for it. The Democrats don't want it. And the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, the rhinos, they're sidestepping the Democrats and trying to help Obama get it. What is this all about? So Elizabeth Warren, this is how bizarre this is getting. Okay, I'm finding myself disagreeing with Marco Rubio and agreeing with Elizabeth Warren when it comes to this trade bill. Listen to this.
This agreement is not about nuclear weapons programs or military operations. There isn't any national security information in this deal. This deal is about things like copyright rules and labor standards. And I know the president doesn't think there's any sensitive national security information in the deal. That's why he's already committed to publicly release the entire text. He just won't do it until after Congress has already voted to grease the skids to make it law. And that brings us to the last justification, that we should all be satisfied that the administration will release the text of the deal a few months before Congress has to vote on whether to approve it. But by then, Congress would have lost the ability to amend the deal, to stop the deal, or to slow it down. In other words, by the time you, the American public, can read the deal, your elected representatives will have lost the ability to use your input to help shape that deal. That sounds like a lousy arrangement to me. So if there are no good reasons for secrecy here, that leaves only a bad reason. And believe it or not, it's a reason I've heard people give multiple times. We should keep the deal secret because if the details were made public now, the public would oppose it. Well, that's how our democracy is supposed to work. If the TPP is mostly done and the public wouldn't support it if they could see it, then it shouldn't become the law.
Well, gee, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be done, isn't it? Remember old Nancy Pelosi, where we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it? I mean, this is the real deal. We really have to pass this to find out what's in it, don't we? This is the bill that they kept under lock and key. This is the bill that they had in a little secret room that nobody could read unless they went to this secret room, and you couldn't take notes, or you could take notes, but you couldn't take them with you, and you couldn't bring your staff with you. You could go in there and you could read one section at a time in a secret room, and they watched you as you read it. Yeah, we have to pass this to find out what's in it, don't we? I just can't believe the mess that Washington is in. And here we are, the people kicked the Democrats out. They installed Republicans to stop Obama. That's what they installed Republicans to do in November. And what are they doing? The Democrats are trying to stop Obama, and the Republicans are trying to push this thing through. Obama wants it. The very fact that he wants it should tell you it's not good for the country. Unbelievable. Boy, there is so much here that I want to get to, and I just can't get to it all. Have you heard what's going on in Ferguson with Michael Brown? They want to put up a permanent memorial to Michael Brown. I'm going to read this. This is from Fox. On what would have been Michael Brown Jr.'s 19th birthday, his memorial on Canfield Drive was removed. Michael Brown's family and the city of Ferguson have come to an agreement about a permanent marker. The makeshift shrine to Brown in the middle of Canfield Drive cropped up shortly after Michael Brown was killed last August and has remained. Officials say that there needs to be a more permanent memorial to the teen, and objects in the street are a safety hazard. The items placed in the middle of the street were removed on Wednesday by Michael Brown Sr. and volunteers. They will be placed in storage by the Urban League. A paving project to improve Canfield Drive is slated to start soon. Michael Brown's father says a plaque will be placed in the sidewalk on Canfield Drive near where Michael Brown was shot and killed. Ferguson Mayor James Knowles III says a permanent place to remember Michael Brown may be set up near the Canfield Green apartment complex. Does this not sound like what they do over in the Middle East, like the Palestinians and the Islamic people who they name roads after terrorists, they name things after suicide bombers, and they celebrate anyone that's committed these horrible atrocities against the Israeli people. Isn't that what they do over there? And they're doing the same thing in Ferguson. This is a kid, Michael Brown, who he was a strong-arm robbery thug. He was stealing Swisher Sweet cigarillos so he could go home and smoke him some blunts. He had marijuana in his system when he attacked the cop and, of course, was ultimately shot and killed by the cop, and now they want to build a shrine to remember Michael Brown. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Oh, I have to do this story. This is too good. This is from The Guardian. 93 million Americans are out of work, so I'm going to read this story just as a public service. Here, the article, the headline is, Saudi Arabia advertises for 8 new executioners as beheading rate soars. Yeah, so they're looking, there's employment in Saudi Arabia, if anyone out there is interested. Saudi Arabia is advertising for 8 new executioners, recruiting extra staff to carry out an increasing number of death sentences, usually done by public beheading. No special qualifications are needed for the jobs, whose main role is executing a judgment of death, but also involve performing amputations on those convicted of lesser offenses. The advertisement posted on the Civil Service Jobs portal said, a downloadable PDF application form for the executioner jobs available on the website carrying Monday's date said the jobs were classified as religious functionaries and that they would be at the lower end of the civil service pay scale. Well, maybe they'll raise the minimum wage over in Saudi Arabia also. So anyone out there, if you're looking for work, if you're down on your luck, head over to Saudi Arabia. No experience necessary. They will train you. I guess you get on-the-job training. And you can be a swordsman, an executioner swordsman, putting to death criminals of Islam. Okay, this is one of the other things I really wanted to get to. I know I'm kind of long here, but this dovetails nicely with one of the things that I strongly believe in, and that is the fact that your children belong to you. And if you do not homeschool, I strongly, strenuously recommend that you homeschool your children, that you educate your children. And this is why. Now, this is a story that I normally would just chuckle at and keep moving, but I had to look at this, like I said, because this is the reason why you want to homeschool. This is from the UK Daily Mail, and I'm not going to read the headline. I'm just going to tell you what the story is about. According to the opinions of almost 7,000 students, okay, and they were an average age of 23, they were asked to give their opinions on 40 figures from significant events throughout history. And they were told to classify these people into 2 columns, heroes and villains. Now, I'm going to read to you the hero list first, okay? So this is the top 10 list of heroes of students, over 7,000 students, average age 23. Number 1, Albert Einstein. Number 2, Mother Teresa. Number 3, Mahatma Gandhi. Number 4, Martin Luther King. Number 5, Isaac Newton. Number 6, Jesus Christ. Number 7, Nelson Mandela. Number 8, Thomas Edison. Number 9, Abraham Lincoln. And number 10, Buddha. So that is the list of the top 10 heroes of all time. This is all throughout history. Albert Einstein, number 1. I don't know how they came up with this. Jesus Christ came in at number 6. That to me is bizarre. I would think he would be number 1, wouldn't you? Abraham Lincoln, number 9. Missing from this list, we might note, George Washington, Ronald Reagan, Winston Churchill, Joan of Arc. If you could think of more, write to me and tell me who you think should be on this list. How would you, if you had to put together a top 10 list of the all-time historical heroes, what would it look like? Now I'm going to read to you the villain list. Okay, this is the top 10 villains. Number 1, Adolf Hitler. Everyone pretty much agrees Adolf Hitler was a bad guy. Number 2, Osama bin Laden. Number 3, Saddam Hussein. Number 4, wait for it, George W. Bush. Number 5 is Stalin. Number 6, Mao. Number 7, Lenin. Number 8, Genghis Khan. Number 9, Saladin. Number 10, Qin Shi Huang. So there's your top 10 list of villains of the world. George W. Bush, seriously, is on the villain list. How do you feel about that? This is what your public education is producing. Now, if I were to read on further, they actually have 40 listed in terms of popularity. Albert Einstein, once again, is on top of this list. Some of the other names on the list: Princess Diana, Columbus, Martin Luther, Bill Gates, Muhammad, Karl Marx, Confucius, Che Guevara, Margaret Thatcher. She's number 25, under Che Guevara. Gorbachev, Napoleon. There's a bunch of people on this list, but this is what public school is producing. This is why I say, if you don't homeschool, you really should educate your own children. I don't know how you get that in all of human history, George W. Bush is fourth when it comes to villains. He is fourth. I mean, think about who he had to beat out. You know, Genghis Khan. He beat Genghis Khan. You know, he beat Cain. The only three ahead of him: Adolf Hitler, Osama bin Laden, and Saddam Hussein. This is what public school is doing to your children. And that's it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for listening in today. Don't forget, if you want to email me, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, any problems with something I've said, you feel free. The email address is theraywarnershow@gmail.com. Be sure to check out the opinion page, posting articles there all the time. And I don't know how you listen to The Ray Warner Show. I don't know how you're listening right now, but there are any number of ways that you can listen. If you go to theraywarnershow.com, you can subscribe and you'll get a link in your email. You can also subscribe at the Ray Warner Show YouTube channel. You can see the show there and subscribe. Every show I post on the Facebook and on the Twitter. So if you follow us in that social media, you'll be able to get the show. And also, it's on iTunes. So if you go to iTunes, you can subscribe there. You can download it there. You can also download from the website, theraywarnershow.com. However you listen, I am so thankful that you do, and we will see you next week. So long, folks.